think that is about everything that I had. I touched on it earlier. We had this on last year's presentation too, because it's such a big deal. Similar to the lease standard, GAP 96 is related to subscription-based IT arrangements, all the software elements that are on a contractual, could be single year, not looking at that here, but these long-term contracts that are going to be recognized similar to leases. Getting all of that information incorporated to financial statements next year, so for this calendar year. Really, other than that, I'm happy to take any questions. If there's anything that anybody would like to hear from me, otherwise, I appreciate everybody. Thanks for having me.
Are there any questions?
So where are the audit financials for that? Where could we find it if I wanted to look at?
We sent them out yesterday, so they should have come from Kelly, an email from Kelly that has the full report and the presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to approve? Motion. Okay.
Second. Roll call. Butler.
Yes.
Curtis.
Yes.
Angelo.
Yes.
Conley. Yes. Rittman.
Yes.
Lorenz.
Yes.
Chen.
Yes.
7-0.
It's on the GAP 96 stop right now that was cleared our audit. Tomorrow we'll start working on the county. So from the GAP 96 perspective, make sure that we share all of the information.
Yeah, it's gonna be a big project.
Yeah, so we've got most work sessions already. So good.
I want to just lend my thank you to everybody on the call. Sandy, I know this was a lot of work and a lot of hours. The elephant in the room is that, Bridget, who's been here a long time, wasn't here for this process. And so that's just a reality. And the team stepped up and got it done. Despite that loss of, that knowledge that she had built up over time. So to get to this point, it's a real testament to the team's hard work and collaboration. It sets us up well to now start those conversations with the city and county on what we just saw, right? Which is that subscription-based software, what that means, and having to collaborate on that and coordinate, see where we're all going to account for all those different assets. So it's good that we're done. Now we start on a new fun adventure together. So, all right, I'm going to take you through very quickly a presentation that has already been shared with you. I'm going to move fast because most of the people in this room have seen it now 10 times, right? And they're sick of my voice. So stop me, please, if something doesn't resonate or if there's something you want to hear. A little bit of background, over the last decade, we've kind of evolved .com in many ways. Joe was there from the beginning. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But the fact of the matter is we set up a lot of things that didn't exist early on, right? We put in SLAs, we put in all of the things that we need to run projects. We put in the security systems we need. We evolved.com. We felt over the last year coming out of the pandemic, it was time to pivot again and try to double down on creating world-class operations inside of .com, the things that everyone should and does take for granted that we do on a daily basis, but also do some outreach into our clients, the city and county departments, to have them at the table in terms of moving us forward strategically in key areas. So that's something that this is built to do. And ultimately bring all of that forward to this body to give more regular updates and broader updates on a larger set of topics. So that's the goal of what you're seeing here. And so we've had these strategic guiding principles down here for almost 8-9 years. We looked at reviewing them and changing them, and ultimately, came to a consensus that this was the right approach for us. How do we organize around that to make it better? Is that we thought we want to start to look at a node approach where we start to focus in on certain strategic areas so that we can move forward and coordinate across those nodes. So the idea is we're sitting in a node right now, as it defined as the oversight committee. So this is kind of our public-facing accountability engine. So everything we do, we bring forward in some way to this group, whether it's our financial status, whether it's our SLAs and our performance there, our customer sat, strategic direction, major projects, all that comes here. So we want to lean in on that a little bit more. As I mentioned, we've got our operational nodes. That's kind of the things that are behind the curtain that a lot of people don't see. But we want to expose some of that, especially out here in our oversight committee. And then these are these new client experience nodes that I mentioned that we want to engage with clients and yourselves to make sure everyone's on the same page strategically. So when we look at this, kind of in this format, here we are today. Ultimately, I own this relationship with the folks sitting at the table. We've got our service nodes. I'm not going to go through them because I'm going to have each team kind of stand up and go through them one by one. So I don't want to, repeat that effort. A lot of this, most of this exists today already. All we're doing is kind of renaming it and then adding some additional accountability and oversight. And then these are the client experience nodes that we put in place. And the big change we put in place is that we'd like each of you to participate in some way on at least one of these nodes. And you may be asking yourself, okay, what did you sign me up for, right? And the answer is we're looking at, a minimal effort with respect to maybe a quarterly meeting, virtual, and some oversight, right? And so we don't want to overburden the people that are already giving their time to this oversight committee. Some of these are younger than others and are going to need more care and feeding. Others are well established and already in place and won't require as much. But the ultimate answer to that question is as much as you want to participate, right? It's, no one's twisting anyone's arm, but we feel it's nice that when we have this meeting once a quarter, you guys have been there, at least one of you in each one of these, what we're calling now the purple nodes, to participate in that and have a voice at this table when we meet every 3 months. So moving through relatively quickly here again, and the reason we like this node analogy is that, this system is only as strong as any one of these nodes, right? If we're failing in one of them, it makes all of the others sub-optimized. And so that transparency and moving that up so everyone can see it is our goal here. From just a management and governance, I've got the oversight committee. I work closely with Diane and Bobby Wernley. We form kind of a triad of decision-making on behalf of the enterprise. So we meet every 2 weeks, more often than that. And we've installed, this is probably the only real major organizational change we've made. Julie, who's been kind of running our client experience group for some time, has now taken on some more staff so that we can create what we're calling these conduits, right? What kind of brings all of this together to make sure there's cohesiveness and all these nodes are operating kind of on the same level. So Julie's team is going to focus, she's got some focus on the service delivery side, behind the firewall, and then the client experience team too. And Julie and team have taken over our bi-weekly meeting with the ITCs where we go through that formal agenda and make decisions. When you look at the overall node ownership, Bob, who's sitting here, has got our infrastructure nodes. Kelly, who you just heard from, has got a lot of our back office stuff, the things that happen, financials, PMO, contracts, that sort of thing. And then VJ, who's sitting over here, has got a lot of our customer-facing nodes, right? Our client-facing nodes, those things that are around applications and analytics and visualization, ERP, that sort of thing. And you'll hear from each one of those. So again, I'm not going to read this to you but I do believe it's a nice summary for anyone that's not familiar with how we operate. It shows all of our service delivery nodes as well as our conduit team and all of our client experience nodes and the conduit team there. And as you can see, each of you has been kind of volunteered for one of these. Some of you have already been reached out to. If you haven't already, that's kind of our next step now that we're public, is to start to build these task force out. Again, some of them already exist. Some of them are already in place in some format, and now we're evolving. Kind of looking at this overall, the why we're doing this, ultimately, we want to try to make sure that we live out. These are our values, and these are the values we've had in place for over a decade to make sure we're meeting clients where they are and giving them what they need and exposing them to things they might not know, the technology they might not know or know is possible for them. We want to make sure that that's happening. We want to make sure within DOTComm, we resist the urge to kind of just throw things over the fence and let someone else handle it. We want to do a handshake approach where we're making sure things are done in a coordinated fashion. And then ultimately, remember why we're here, right? Remember who we serve ultimately. And that's kind of the oversight message. So I'm going to turn it over to each node to do just a very brief overview of who they are and what their main focus is right now. But before I do that, any questions or clarifications needed on what we're doing here? The big thing to keep in mind is we've now restructured this meeting around this strategy, right? So each one of these nodes will at least get a moment of attention at the oversight committee to say, here are the projects we're working on, here are the things that we're focused on, to make sure you guys are in the loop and can steer us in the right direction if you see needed course correction. Any questions? Okay. Jump in if you need to. First node we're going to look at is what we're calling, you may have heard the term, maybe not, a NOC. That's kind of a network operations center. It's an IT term that kind of describes that, that central heartbeat of a IT organization that is taking calls, looking at the monitors, seeing what's going on, kind of that 24/7, looking at everything. We've kind of modified that because we're doing more than network operations here to the DOC. That's the DOTComm Operations Center. So Bob has got that. So I'll let Bob introduce how we structured this. Each node has a director, a DOTComm director. Then it has an administrative lead, usually a manager level person within DOTComm who will help administer that and own that from that perspective. For our internal nodes, that's where it stops. For our external nodes, we've also assigned one of you to be a part of that too. So we'll walk through that as we go. So Bob, the doc.
Wonderful. So as we look at it, on our current one, it's much of the same stuff that you guys have seen within there. It's priority tickets, incidents, SLAs, and really how the service desk is doing. Really, that encompasses that doc area. So it's a monitoring of the systems that are out there, making sure that the people are aware if something was wrong. In the future piece, or in our administrative lead, actually is Zuhair Kamal. So Zuhair.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Has a speech that he's going to give.
So thanks for having me. I am Zuhair Campbell. I've mostly seen some of you, so I'm happy to actually drive and lead this operation portion for DOTComm, and just very excited and humble to and tackle everything that thank you.
And within there, so we got future training, and really it's that assets piece, and that's what we're trying to get out to the clients, you guys and the clients, is look at what you guys have within your portfolio for that compute devices. That's really what rolls up in there within the doc. It's the age of device, number of devices, and the status of them, kind of where you guys are at, so that it helps you more with the budgeting cycles to plan for that stuff. In the key initiatives, we're looking at the Windows Desktop 11 migration. So again, getting everybody up to Windows 11 so that it's not a last minute object. We got some time frame on there, but we are moving quickly on that. And then the early bird PC piece, and that's the testing. We found that we're lacking just a little bit on that early bird piece. When we push out updates, we need key people in those organizations or those departments to be able to test to see if there's any adverse effect with that update to any of the applications that they use. So we do have a project that's going to be going through, and we'll touch each of those departments. And really it gets back to the SLAs that's in their package. So if you do have any questions on those packages, definitely let me know. So here's one of the new ones that we have, and that's really what we want to track within that doc. The new report here is how many proactive T2 tickets are we opening up through the doc versus somebody calling in saying, hey, I have a problem. So that's one of those key measures that we want to be able to do. Again, be as proactive as possible and be able to tell the customer or the client when they're calling in and say, hey, I've got a problem. Yes, we do. We have a ticket. You can track it. Here's the ticket. You can track it. SLAs for March. Everything was good. P4s on the incidents. We didn't quite make, but sometimes there's those incidents that really don't make it. Overalls. Here is our operating system. Again, this is the Windows 11. You can look at see where that's at. And then this is the call stats of service desk. And you can see where we're at. But again, this is one of the existing reports that we have. And customer sat. And then the after hour calls. And then this is where we would list our projects. We do have a project in request, and that one is the lock screen. That one I do want to touch on just a little bit. Right now, we do have to call in. Everything is self-serve, or you call into the service desk to reset your password. There are some that you can go out there and do. This would give you the ability to reset your password from the lock screen. So if you get locked out, and instead of having to call in, you'll be able to open up your laptop and then be able to reset it from there. So we do have a project. We anticipate that being done roughly 90 days or so hopefully a little bit sooner, but we'll get that out. Any questions on the last one? We'll do this one pretty quick.
This one is the infrastructure reliability, and that encompasses the main infrastructure pieces: voice data, server storage, and facilities. And so John Henrich, I think you guys have all met him at one point or another. He's been around for a while, very dependable, very knowledgeable. Institutional knowledge is through the roof. So we couldn't be here without him on that. So to do this, okay. All right. So the futures. So what we're looking at is standardized uptime by the service offering. So we'll get you guys metrics on that as far as, you know, how long. Again, we're running 5 nines, probably even more on the data center itself. We've advertised that a number of times. We'll bring that forward just so that you can communicate that then to your staff in your departments as well. Asset aging, again, that's more on the infrastructure side. Desktop side is dock. Infrastructure is going to be more that server storage. We'll kind of give you a red light, green light, yellow light based on budgets. All right. And then void progress, we'll get that up there. We're updating the numbers, so that will be in there as well. Key initiatives, we're going to the mainframe storage, mainframe and storage refresh. The mainframe has been updated. The storage is in process. Refreshing the server virtual environment, network equipment, and then moving to a cloud backup. So we're moving away from that iron that's on the floor, get it up, those backups into the cloud so they're a little bit more versatile or easier to access. Here's our projects. You can go through and look at those. The void projects are on top, so closed projects top. The active projects there, we're all in the green. No big issues or anything that we have to really highlight during those. And then the project requests that are out there. And then the cab. Unfortunately, Cody, he did have a 3-4 minute speech lined up, but he is out sick. Which it was nerves. I probably got him. Key metrics here, and this is something new. So the change approval board is something that has been really transparent to the oversight committee and really everybody that's out there. These are the changes that we do behind the scenes for all the departments. So all the equipment that's out there, all of the software, all the applications and the hardware, everything else that's out there, we go through a process. Cody leads it right now. That goes through and they approve, they put in the request, that has to go through an area of everybody saying this is what I'm doing, who it affects, what the impact is going to be to the client, and then we look at any conflicts. If it conflicts with any other updates or upgrades or client services that are going on, so that we don't overly burden the clients with outages.
I just want a point of emphasis on the cab. This has been in place forever. And most people don't know it, right? They don't know what's happening. It's one of the changes. That's why we're doing this, right? Is to try to surface some of those things that happen in the background. And this team meets every week. They ensure that if someone's going to make a change to a system, that everyone's aware of it. Someone can raise their hand and say, hold on. Have you thought about the fact that that's going to impact corrections, or that might impact somebody else? Or have you thought about the Oracle interface that will need to be looked at as well? And so that we don't want to burden this team with everything, but we at least want to show some summary statistics. This is how many changes we're processing on a weekly basis, because I think those are kind of the unsung things that happen that no one ever hears about. And that's what we're trying to change here. So just wanted to point that emphasis out.
All right. So when we're looking at the future of the metrics, it's really the open and closes change, emergency changes. Emergency is going to be something that came down from a vendor or we have an issue with a product that we have to get in. It's unplanned. And then we move through that process. The channel reporting as far as where it's coming from, and then the associated, the time associated with those changes, and how much time we're putting in to support those systems. Key initiatives, it's those priority communications. And CAB is really where those P2 outages come in. We'll work with those and make sure that we're communicating to the right people at the right time when we have impacting outages. There are currently no projects with that. And then we run into the PMO. I'll let somebody else contract.
So from a project management office, obviously we've been giving reports in this form for quite some time. So some of the future things to be looking for is just, we have a minimum standard set that we've established within the project management office. So to come back and show you from a compliance standpoint, how compliant are we with our standards that we've applied. From a project planning and accuracy, being able to take a closer look at, what are those planned start dates versus what the actuals were. We talked all of last calendar year about the sheer volume of projects that we were running And we talked about some of those resource collisions, but what you didn't see was some of those go live dates sliding or those planned close dates that also slipped. So being able to just service that just a little bit more. And before I go too much further, I do want to introduce the administrative lead for this node. It's John Rivera. John did want to borrow my top out just for today, because it's too showy for most occasions. But John has been with us for close to a decade. Started as a project manager, that was promoted to a senior project manager. And when the opportunity came last summer to look for a project management office manager, having an internal candidate of John's caliber was really a blessing to us. And so moving into that position just allowed us to take another look and a different look at our project management office and take it to that next level. So really pleased with John and what he's doing. The next piece, just key initiatives, smart sheets. So we talked a little bit about that at the last oversight. So being able to standardize our project planning tool, John's been leading that charge with the project managers. So that's going to give us, again, better insight into how those schedules are actually performing. And here are the charts. So from our project hour summary, the interesting part for this meeting was, the city's at, 30% after the first quarter. So that represents kind of a shift in what that portfolio was and some of those hours that are in there for the city. So we're really happy to see that number come back. Active requests, again, the ins and the outs that are happening. As of today, we were just under 60 active projects. From a closed projects, we've moved from 6 to 9 since this was produced a couple weeks ago. So our April closes, we're still looking to capture 2 more before the end of the year, but overall the velocity of the portfolio seems to be performing well. Here were the 2 closed projects. One was a wood project and one was the annual 2022 property project for the county.
The next note is the architecture review board. So we've had this in place. It's really more of a tactical and strategic versus Bob had mentioned on cap. It's operational. A lot of the things that we work with is it's like a group of individuals who work towards technical steering. So if we've got an idea that comes in from one of you guys, from a client, or we've got something at DOTComm, we want to review all those. That's one of the top things that we do. So providing the technical guidance on total cost of ownership, how that's going to work for you as a customer on the support and the operational side, how that's going to work with DOTComm. We want to think about all of those things as they come in so that we can align them. A lot of times we've got software and services that we already have. It may be a good fit. Other times we need to look at, other items that don't fit that mold. We work with each of the items that you've seen so far and the ones you're going to see, all the nodes and conduits on their strategic roadmap. So as you're looking at that 3-year view of what wants to be accomplished at DOTComm, to make sure that we're working with each other and that we also have the appropriate things on there. So a lot of good things in that, but really just looking at the technology and making sure that we're making decisions.
On this particular note, we don't have a DOTComm director. We decided that the best way to make sure that decisions are made, in the most democratic and efficient way possible, BJ, Kelly, and Bob kind of form a triad of decision making here. And Greg, is hugely influential in that and drives it. But that way we make sure things are getting that full look. And, there's that triangulation of making decisions when it comes to say, yes, we agree that this is something that should move forward and either, be pursued as a software or a renewal or whatever it might be. So we feel that works pretty well.
From a contract review board, speaking of renewals, this was something they didn't do as of the last 6 months, 9 months. And the whole intent here was being able to have that data consolidated with enough intelligence that we can look ahead and say, here are key or strategic contracts that we have that are up for renewal. Or when we're signing a contract on behalf of a state department, again, reviewing those in addition, making sure that all that's being tracked and managed. Austin shared earlier, the percentage of DOTComm's budget that's wrapped within contracts is right around the 6%. It's a little bit more than what we do. So, we're a budget of people on contracts. So to be able to mature into this space, to be able to provide that data only helps us in some of those strategic decision makings, but also from a GASB 96 compliance, being able to see if we've signed a contract on behalf of a client department, looking at it, make sure that it fits those kind of things additional terms that have been laid out. We can report on that data, extract that, and now we have that laid out, and we're really cleaning it. So, the key initiative there is within Salesforce, we're leveraging Congress for contracts. What that's going to enable us to do is to be able to have an automated workflow and the ability to do those contract deadlines that we can then send to Michael. And he can do his markups and send those back to us via the same email that we distributed that to him. And then it keeps track of all those kind of change records before we finally send it out for signature. So when that project's in the yellow, is there kind of flashed it forward. The reason why that contract for that project is in the yellow, BJ and I are the primary resources to it. And over the last 90 days, just been busy with other committed things, but we're right on the edge of going live. So being able to make sure that we've got our familiarization and training documentation, service owners, and everybody, and we're just not to that point to bring everybody into the fold and then send that goal like it. We look forward to rolling that out because the capabilities from a reporting standpoint is just so limited.
All right.
I have a question for Kelly. As part of that contract management, then will you have a repository where you're going to keep the
We
contract?
do now. So we had a, like a share folder, but what ended up happening is just as you'd expect. Not all contracts got in there, not all contracts are timely, different renewals never got. So then we moved that into Salesforce and we really were able to centralize from a contract repository of all those things. But what was missing when we did that was again the workflow. So being able to capture a contract in its draft stage and then making sure from an execution standpoint, we've got the latest and greatest of fully executed contracts. And then obviously the relevant data points that are embedded in that document. If they're just sitting in a document, it's not really useful. But when we systematize them, now we can report on them and look at them. So we have them now, we have them in a repository, but with the absence of that working loader, just kind of.
It's been an evolution over time, as Kelly said. It used to be, we didn't know where they were 10 years ago. We got them into a shared drive. We got them into Salesforce, and just a refresher for everyone, Salesforce is our back office engine, right? It's what does our ticketing system. It's where we enter our project data. It's where all of our people put their time. So it just made sense to have it. It's where we have all the clients located, right? And all the key people and all the tickets attached to them. So that was a major evolution to have all of those contracts in Salesforce and tagged to a client. I think that's where kind of your interest is most going to be, is that's essentially we already had. But what we didn't have is the workflow piece to have that back and forth with our legal team as well as the client if they are going to look at it and review it and then report on it. So we should have at the end of this project a contract, who it's assigned to from a client perspective, and the workflow and documentation around each one of them, as well as the automated, hey, this contract's coming up in 3 months. You better start working on it. Is this going to get renewed? You need to go out and do an RFP, whatever it might be. Does that help?
Yeah, as we discussed, I think that we need to be able to access the information when we need it as well for our audits. And I guess I want to make sure that there's going to be a process in place with this contract management, so it's an easier process to share information.
Just to answer it directly, I don't think from a scope perspective that open access to you will be there on day one, but our ability to provide you that information right now would be there. So they will continue to stand through that, because again, these are contracts that we moving forward. Some of these were signing together from the two and then the city or the county signing the contracts, so that happened for everybody. It's not going to be doing this traditional approach, just to make that expectations a little bit. But again, our ability to have that in one central repository expression for leveraging our CRM with the clients on a regular basis. Again, just another set of data related to that interaction that you have with DOTComm, parts and pieces of the contracts that you sign. That's it for your business too. So I want you to have that. I want you to have that information. Does that help?
Well, yeah,
It's self-service as well.
Yeah, absolutely, right. Like, I don't
So
want
if
to
you
feel
can give
requests.
user access and you just say it's read only or something. If that's, I don't know if that's what you're getting at.
yeah, we just need to access that information so that we can do our audit, our business as well. And so I'm just opening that up for discussion to see if that's being addressed with
I
this.
hear what you're saying, and I 100% agree with what's going on in the direction that needs to go.
easier for you guys too at some point.
100%. We have the same goal.
And
Yes,
then
yeah.
you like, they
We
can have
want-
that, the auditors need it.
There's no reason that we shouldn't have a read access opportunity for the right people in the city and county to get access to this system. All without having to bother Kelly, and you can do it self-service. I think Kelly's just managing expectations on what does day one look like. I don't know. We don't know, but what we do know is that we should be able to produce a report at least and get the process started and be better. And, months from now, that would be something that we would tackle formally. And maybe it'll be easier than we think. We'll see. Yeah, no, and that's, again, why we're creating this public view of the contract review process, right? Because one of the best ways we can improve it is to talk about it in this forum, right? And hold ourselves accountable to, let's get this better. Let's make this better and get it done and have, a really clean ability to pull these reports and know when these contracts are due and do the workflow in as efficient as way as possible.
All right. Back up more.
Sorry.
So the service delivery conduit.
Okay.
So as Derek mentioned, this is the orange circle that coordinates with all of the internal nodes. The goal of this conduit is to make sure that we are consistent, that we are looking at best practices, that we are measuring things consistently, reporting them the same. And the person who's heading up this team is Jackie McQuillan. Jackie, do you have speech?
I have no speech, no glitter, no top hat, nothing.
Jackie previously headed up our technical support services and did a fantastic job in identifying areas for improvement and implementing those changes. And so she's the perfect one to lead this team. This team's goal is to do that, identify areas of process improvement, customer facing improvement, that kind of thing. So some of the things we're working on right now is working with each of these nodes or getting this stood up, but also looking at replacing some paper processes with electronic forms, which she's done a lot of in the past too. And then providing these data for client summaries, the meetings we've been having with the county department so far. And this is actually also going to be kind of setting the baseline for our project, which is in the next page. It's called Customer Portal, but this is taking our self-service capability today and enhancing that. And, to your point, we were just talking about contracts and self-service. That is not part of our scope right now, but I did jot that
It
down.
is now, I've written it up.
You got it down? Okay, all right. To make this a much more robust customer portal that can get at things easier than you can today and for things. This project is underway. Any questions on that, on the services? All right, so then we jump into the purple nodes. This first one here, the DOTComm Resource Management Task Force. This is kind of built on the cost model, which, as you know, it looks at creating the operating budget. So kind of how do we spend our time and how do you guys use your services, right? But trying to build on that to be a little bit more forward-looking and more strategic. So if we look at all the nodes you're about to hear, they're all of these big strategic initiatives. And this is saying, and obviously key people on this node will be the finance directors, right? But trying to plan from a funding, from a resource perspective out a number of years, so that we're all working on this together in terms of the types of things that you guys want done. As far as the current metrics, a lot of these you've seen. These are, again, how do we spend our time? So looking at our hours and tickets, and how do you guys use our services? So future will be, I hope we'll be bringing in on a regular basis analysis that we're doing in terms of trend analysis from historical, but then also future looking in terms of what we need.
I want to, double down on that piece. I think the cost model has evolved and become, very useful, and it's kind of table stakes at this point. And part of that, and as everyone here knows, is we've rolled a lot of what we used to consider capital. Because we don't buy capital the way we used to, everything's a subscription, we put most of that, or frankly, all of it, into our operating budget. So what we really don't have is a strategic view of what are the big things the city and county are going to need over the next 3 to 5 years. And we want to start planning in that way, because we know we've got upgrades to systems, we've got infrastructure needs. We want to start looking out at that and start planning in ways so that we don't have a bottleneck at some point where there's a huge county thing needed in one department and another department needs something, and start doing some strategic planning financially on that front as well. So, good.
And then obviously from a reporting standpoint, we're rolling in for you guys. the project, the only project we have right there right now is just the 2024 cost model project, which to the next page. That is winding down. The very last step of that is to get that budget approved, which will happen in the July meeting. So that's you guys approving that. By the July meeting, we'll also have the 2025 cost model budget. Again, these are reports that we've seen. So this is just the pie chart on the left is our forecast, and on the right is how we're spending our time. And again, the reason for this is just, this is how we deliver our work to you guys. So it is important for us to track to make sure that we are doing the work that is expected of us. This is looking at from the city and county perspective in terms of how those hours are split between city and county. And as Kelly already mentioned, at least for the first part of this year, the city is actually ahead in terms of usage. So from a cost model, we have 45% of it is the funding is coming from the city, 55% from the county. As of through April 10th, 47% of the usage was the city versus the county. And that has not been the case for a number of years. So there. And then just the tickets here. It's interesting. This actually, the ticket volume is much more consistent than historical usage in terms of the county just usually has a lot more tickets. So it's the project that are making that. All right, Kelly.
Now, here's our operating income statement. I think note is with 25% of the year past, our expense total was 30%. So our first quarter, we were running a little bit high. So that we understand that we've got some larger contract renewals that happen in the first part of the year in Q1. Our software restricted runs from the state. Accounts and past receivables, you know, the bar looks high, but it's $70,000. It's 90 days past due with DC elections. Now we continue to work with them. There's some assurances, things that we want to make sure that the equipment is working as it should, and that's how we'll end up paying of that bill. From a cash transfer projections.
Yep, I can explain that. I was actually going to jump in and do that. So we've got the state of Nebraska. They call it they're similar organization like us, the CIO organization. They call it the Office of the CIO for the state of Nebraska. So that's an appointee to the governor. That's Ed Toner, who's been there for now 6-8 years, something like that. And just a little history lesson. When Ed came on, if you've not been to our C-level facility, that's where our data center is. And when it was built, it was built with excess capacity. And so we said who would be the right partner to maybe use that capacity and as a backup, and we could get some rent from it. So we approached the state of Nebraska, and Ed came and said, not only do I want to use it, I want to use it as our primary data center. And so they've used not all of it, but a large portion of it. And so we received rent from that, from the state of Nebraska. And then the arrangement we made was to, some of that goes to the public building commission, some of it goes to, the building commission, and then the rest goes into what we're calling our self-restricted funds, which we use to pay for expenses approved by this fund. That was a long answer to what is the OCIO, but I think that's what you were looking for in terms of what is this and where did it come from. As you can see, the monthly drip isn't very big, but we reserve these dollars for, I'll just use in quotes, capital expenses, things that will benefit the city. Cash. Beth?
Yeah, so these are kind of the usual slides, nothing new and exciting like everyone else. But maybe in the future, as we talk a little bit about resource management and planning and things like that from an HR perspective. But for right now, really, these are just turnover numbers. We had 2 in January, none in February, 2 in March. Then this is our recognition. I haven't put the April numbers in there, but you can see that March was really high, which is great. We tend to trend higher usually than the January and February numbers, but we just were slow to start for the year. So that's what we're looking at there.
All right. If you guys have heard of the security task force that we had before, the IT security stakeholders group, the technology risk management task force is an expansion on that. So what we're looking at is separating out all of the metrics, things that we track into 3 different areas. One of them is all the DOTComm security team, things that we're holding close to us with sensitive information. And that The next is that second layer where we're going to bring it to a task force for awareness. So, and then that third one is the public session as we're in right now. So there's not going to be a lot of things that we're going to bring here that we want to, to express publicly, but we may want that as an option there. So one of the things that we're building is a risk register, specifically an IT risk register. So similar to other business risk registers, we're going to document things that we need to improve in our environment, not only security risks, but other things that impact IT or you guys, the customers, and put priorities behind there. So when we come forward to project management, resource planning, others, we have more strength behind the items that we really think they're impactful from a metric base. So a lot going on in this area. We've already ran this committee for about 9 or 10 years. It's now turning into a task force with further participation. So we closed out one project here soon. It's the VPN security. So a lot of the items that we're working on right now, we have come to you guys for policy changes, improvements, and now we're working on those projects to get everything implemented. So our Citrix environment for connecting in from your home computer now requires multi-factor authentication. That's something a long time that we wanted to have. That was a risk and then benefit. So not only that, from other types of compliance, if you were to look at cybersecurity insurance, any of those types of things, it's a good box to have checked. Other items as we move forward are Bob had mentioned a couple of different projects there, but one of them is a user power stroke. So over time, we've accumulated a lot of accounts. We've got a lot of technical debt in regard to being able to go do some administrative work, enough to the point where we're going to have a project around that. And that's that group. If you have any questions about it or have someone on your staff you'd like to be part of that group, just let me know.
All right, BJ, you're up.
Yep. So this is the ERP node. As many of you know that today we have a Oracle board. So we're gonna expand the scope of that Oracle board. We're gonna bring in the info and the workforce team as a part of its ERP task force. And then there's a lot of kind of synergies with both those groups there. So since we're just starting on the key metric side, we're still working on it. In the next meeting, we will be probably reporting a lot of those business-related statistics, like metrics, like the number of POs processed, the number of requisitions, the transaction volume, things like that. And then on the key initiative side, we are in process of kind of putting a task force together. Two of the all the committee members here, we've already worked very closely, so we'll have a kind of a formal kickoff for those task force, and then work through the items that we want to talk about. And on the key initiative side, we have, like we discussed on the last Oracle board, we are going to bring in a third-party assessment to look at our current environment, to kind of a gap analysis, map those to our future needs, and then see what recommendations come back from that assessment. Based on those recommendations, we'll plan for the Oracle upgrade. And then we also have done about 4 functional workshops across all domains, which is the HCM, financials, procurement, and projects on that side. We will do more of those across city and county. And then there are 2 workshops that are also coming up. There were conversations on expanding chart of accounts that we have, and also expanding segment value of the projects segment that we have, and then also how the enterprise structure will be laid out. So currently, structure was defined back in 2001, and the business needs have changed today. So we're going to relook at that enterprise structure. How we want to structure, especially DOTComm, city and already kind of separate operations today. When we did the R12 upgrade, we had identified key super users within each department, and that has worked really well for us. over the years, a lot of those folks have retired, so we want to kind of revamp that as a part of the new upgrade that we want to do. So those will be our kind of key champions, key super users in each department. So that was more to enhance user adoption as we move towards that new system. And then on the Infor side, we have two projects that are lined up on the workforce roadmap. Currently, Infor is a single tenant environment. That also is a major upgrade, converting it to a multi-tenant environment. And then also on the workforce side, there's a major upgrade that's on our roadmap. 14 is undertaken. And no, yeah, I'm sorry. We have a key, Pete Evans is our key admin here. And almost every Oracle user across city and county know and love. Yeah, thanks, sir. Well, Scott, I got another floor. You want to have a speech or something?
Oh, no speech. I've been here for over 20 years now, so that's what
Yeah, everybody knows you. It's been awesome and thanks for all that you do for us. And on the project side, we have currently 4 Oracle projects in flight. One is the Telestop interface that's pretty close to tested now. And we have the TA Collaborate interface, waiting on the vendor to finish their part of the work. Then we have the e-builder interface that's kind of in the requirement stage right now. We're working through the details of the vendor over there. And then the 4th one is the Douglas County budget. And that's an introduction. I think it's pretty well. A lot of people already that data system. On the application modernization, the admin is Jim Evans. This is not the real Jim. The real one is working there. I'm glad to be here. Jim's been awesome. You know, he's a great asset for citycounty.com.
Much like Pete, most people know Jim. Jim's been around a long time. And every meeting I go to with like city or county department, someone mentions Jim and how grateful they are for the way that he operates and the work that he brings. So I'll double down on that. Same with Pete. It's just, you know, they just know everybody and are so valuable. So it's great to allow them now to have bring their leadership and their technical talents in these efforts. It's a great marriage. So go ahead.
So on the app, this is a new note for us. So this is an application modernization note. So we are working on a 3-year strategic roadmap. We've already met with, I think, formally with Amber on this note. We'll have more formal meetings with her. So right now we are in the kind of assess the state of this node. What that means is we're kind of going through our application portfolio and kind of doing an analysis of that data, and then we'll be setting up meetings with different departments here, getting some feedback from them, and working on the prioritization of that. And then we'll be also assigning a kind of a application modernization score to each of that application as we go through that portfolio, basically looking at it from 5 different lenses. That could be that is kind of cost, risk, compliance, agility, efficiency. Basically, those are combinations of your business fit and the technical fit. So based on that analysis and score that we assign, we'll run it through our, what we call it, R framework, which is, it's right now it's like 7 Rs. I think we've got 8 Rs, 9 Rs as well. So basically, what that means is what the outcome of this analysis is, whether this application needs to be retired or re-hosted or re-platformed or rewritten or, things like that. So the cost and the effort varies depending upon what the analysis are for those applications. Go to the next slide. These are those drawing stuff. So on our roadmap, we currently have about 24 active projects in flight right now. The major ones are the OMS upgrade. We have the underwork program. We have the solid waste. We have the city parking, the e-citation with the state, with the parking. So we have a lot of active projects right now. all of them are in a good shape right now. So. And we've got a lot of projects in our queue as well. So we're just waiting to start on them pretty soon as we wrap up some of them in the next few months or so. We have 4 or 5 larger active ones in flight today. So that's why the queue is a little packed up today. But hopefully we should be able to catch up with our backlogs pretty soon. On the data visualization side, there's been an increased need for harnessing the mainframe data and how the departments can leverage that to make data-driven decisions. So we kind of want to open that up for different departments to access that data. Currently, as you know, most of our data is in the mainframe. It's very hard to access that data through standard modern reporting tools. It has to go through the gateway. So we're kind of working through that, a 3-year roadmap, how we're going to modernize that data architecture. What that means is we're going to have a data warehouse. We're going to have a data lake. So we're going to kind of we'll have a hybrid environment of both. And then we are going to separate the metadata from the data. Right now, a lot of those business logics are tightly aligned, making it harder for a user to access that data. So once we separate that, it'll be a lot easier to kind of combine those key metrics, key performance indicators, and create those reports there. And then we will be scheduling meetings with the oversight committee member and forming a task force. Right now, we are in the process of going through our legacy reporting portfolio, what different data sources that we're going to target for in the first wave of those visualization portfolio. And wow, the key admin here on is John Lewis. He's remote there. John, who's just started with us about a year ago, he's been awesome. He's done great work on the web focus migration upgrade project. He's great to work with. He brings in with a lot of experience, so which we'll be leveraging him a lot on this note. Hi, John.
Hi, good to be here. Thank you.
Thanks. And then on the project side, we have a big project going on right now with the web focus upgrade. We were a few years behind on our web focus upgrade from 5 to 6, and then we went to 8. Now we're up to 9 now. And then at the same time, we are moving this to the DOTComm Cloud, which runs on AWS platform as well. So there's a lot of work going on that side as well. And the other one is the ETL data pipe that we are building it for the OMS project as well. That's a big effort there to bring in all that just the data there in that space. Lastly is the document management node. As you know, Sean Powers, everybody knows, and loves it. He owns this admin. He comes with a significant experience. He's been a great help to me on the apps team. He handles a lot of those projects there that come in every day. And this, again, we are in process of forming the task force here. We're running the same framework on document tools as well. As you know, today we run 2 major tools here on the document space: is the Filebound and the Laserfish. And then the third one, we are expanding the scope of that one is the DocuSign. So one of the bigger key initiatives on this side is migrating the Laserfish that's hosted today on our AWS environment and going into vendor-hosted SaaS environment there. So I think that's a huge project for us. Been wanting to do that for a while now. So just go back there. Sorry. And then also expanding the scope of DocuSign. We recently done the integration with Cobblestone, that's a new contract management tool. Counties using it today, and also expanding the utilization by city planning. And then also we have a major firewall upgrade coming up this summer. On this side, another thing I want to highlight here is on the firewall side, there's a lot of integrations that we have with different applications as well. Just like on the Oracle side, we have the invoice scan that the city uses there. There are a lot of web applications that has integrations here. So those also will go through that R framework. We'll relook at those processes. If it makes sense, we'll probably move them to a different tool. For example, currently, City of Omaha does the Oracle invoice scanning on Firewall. That stores it on Firewall. When we go to our Oracle environment, that's processed to change because the new tool brings in those out of the box scanning functionality. You know, the project side, we have a lot of those projects in flight right now. Back up. I said it is okay.
Anything else, Vijay?
No, that's
All right, and last but not least is the second conduit. So the second ring that connects, and this is the client experience conduit, connecting those purple nodes that we just went through. Purpose is similar to the service delivery conduit in that the goal is to ensure consistency, making sure that we are measuring and reporting consistently across that. But the difference is the service delivery is focused on process improvement. The client experience conduit is focused on you guys. It's focused on the clients to make sure that you are represented, that you are actively part of these teams, that you're being heard, that you understand what we're saying, all those kind of things. And no better person to have that out than Deanna Hughes. So I think most of you know Deanna. She's the client relationship manager and has been here for about the same amount of time as these other two legends here of DOTComm. So Deanna is legend. There we go. Anyway, so that has been Deanna's role, is representing the clients, and you know we all internally look to her to be the eyes and ears and voice. So that will be her role. This conduit. Key initiatives is this account contact links. This will just be part of the task force. This is our distribution list internally. And then the department feedback engagements, which the next page. We've talked about this. We'll be talking about the January meetings where we're going out and meeting with each individual departments. We've got a lot of you already. This schedule is for the county side, and so we are probably wrapping this up in June. We have May and June meetings left, and then we are still kind of determining how we're going to do this on the city side, but working with Bobby on that. So, but all that feedback also will be going back to informing what we are doing with these schedules. Questions? Deanna, did you have a speech? Sorry.
Yeah.
No. All right.
So Eliza, that's about all we had. I did want to take 1 minute if I could, and embarrass someone for a second. He knows I'm looking at him. And so, Joe, for those of you that don't know, Joe, this is Joe's last official oversight committee meeting. Lori, who's here, will be taking over officially in that capacity in July. And I had a thought the other day, Joe, that I remember 10 years ago sitting in an interview room when I was looking to, potentially get this job, and it was you and 6 other people, and they're all gone. And you're the last one. It kind of hit me in a weird way, right? To think about the fact that I don't want to gloat, but I outlasted all of you. Is how I kind of view it.
Let me tell you a little story about that.
Oh boy, I don't know if I should open this up.
When I first came, I've been here 12 years now, or political terms, yeah, 3 terms. And when I first came here, to be honest with you, DOTComm was not very highly thought of within the city or county. There were a lot of issues. They had brought in a guy who had been a consultant to run the operations. That usually doesn't work. It wasn't working. It was poor customer service. They couldn't provide solutions to technical problems. The board at that time was the 2 finance directors, somebody from the city council, a county commissioner, and some outside directors whose qualifications I never really understood. So and overall, it was kind of a dysfunctional organization that had issues. But, the guy who was running it, I think, realized that he was the wrong person for this job. So we went, put a search committee together and interviewed some people. And, from my perspective, it's like, hey, we're in a turnaround and we have to make changes here. And, just as things tend to happen around here, the process was kind of political. But, we talked to Derek and, he really did strike me as a guy who could do a turnaround. And so we were able to convince the group that he was the right choice. And we did that. We gave Derek the autonomy to build his group, which he did. We made some other changes. We brought in the concept of the IT coordinators and just the perception of DOTComm within the city county organization now compared to 12 years ago is night and day. That's a good thing. And as now, Eric said, I'm the last one to move on. I see in front of me, you guys are still moving forward. Your node organization, there's some things hanging out there that are going to be very serious for this organization to assist in, and that we're, moving onward with our ERP system and bringing it to the cloud, most likely Oracle. And that's a big challenge. I had a conversation a couple of days ago with John Ewing, and he is very gung-ho on moving the land records management system off the mainframe and going to a cloud organization on that. And that's the primary source of revenue for the county, provides a lot of the revenue for the city, and provides most of the revenue for the school district. So that's a big thing too. Hundreds of millions of dollars get transacted through these things. So there's a lot there. That's going to be a challenge for you all guys moving forward. It looks like you have a vision, and it's a good time for me every time.
Yeah, right. I gotta say, Joe, that's the first time I've ever tried to, send somebody off and compliment them, and they just
turned
took over
into
and flipped it around. I wasn't expecting that, but thank you. The irony there is you could have just taken credit for all this. None of the original other 7 people are here. You could have just said they were all wrong and you fought for it, and that's what. But no, Joe, just we're not here without your help and assistance over the last decade as well. I mean, you've been a constant voice of reason and advocacy, and also pushback, right? Say, hey, man, there's got to be a more creative way to do this, and made us a better organization. And so it's going to be bizarre not having you sit at that table, I'll be honest, and so I wish you the best of luck. Thank you for everything you've done. And it is kind of a turning of a new chapter, right? In terms of what we've built together over a decade. I like your term, 4 terms. That's kind of funny. But thank you, Joe. A lot of people are very grateful for the time that we've spent together, and wish you the best luck. Don't move away. We might need you. So.
Thanks, and I really do believe you guys are well positioned.
Well, thank you, Joe. I just want to take a couple minutes to recognize Joe and everything he's done. Honestly, thank you. With our next scheduled meeting for July, and then I'll turn it over to you, Alexa.
Okay, in July, that's our budget, and is that election?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, we both, okay.
So we'll do the budget approval. That's a little later. That's a month out, but we figured what's a month. And then on the approval for the officers, we combine that. Our bylaws allowed us to do that just in one meeting. So we're going to do that in July.
Other business meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.